episode 19. Today, we have an extreme honor to be speaking with Mr. Francesco, the head of blockchain at City, among many other things. Welcome to the show. Thank you so much for hopping on today.
Hey, thank you for having me. It's my pleasure.
Well, I know y'all are in the midst of a monstrous amount of activity, over at Sin City. So thank you for taking the time. I'd love to really kick things off and dive into your story. I'd love to hear kind of how you got into the whole crypto gaming world, and really just understand like the role you play in all the different ecosystems out there.
It's quite a long story. I think that my first interest in metaverse was in 2004. I was trying to build a technology for putting virtual reality on web, and but it was too early. There was nothing really that you could use. It was really a waste of time. So it's in the end, I abandoned it and I focused on other things. I'm really into cryptography, things like this. So I created a password manager. It was the first host proof hosting password manager in the world. It was quite successful. And that was my entering in the crypto space mostly. But I finally became very into blockchain only, I think, in 2013. And when I bought some Bitcoin that I lost on the wrong exchange. And later in 2014, I had some other Bitcoin and I decided Dogecoin was looking cool for some reason. I liked the idea of Dogecoin. And so I moved my Bitcoin to Crypsi. I don't know if you remember Crypsi. They crashed and I have lost again all the things that I don't want to say how many Dogecoin I had then. Okay, I don't even want to remember. Okay. And later, what happened is that when I was looking at Ethereum, and this is fun. It's fun it depends from the point of view. I was looking at Ethereum. I told a lot of friends, "Hey, this project is really going to change everything," and but you need to buy something. When there is the ICO, you need to buy. So many of my friends bought Ethereum at the ICO. What happened to me that I forgot? So I was doing something else. I don't remember what I was doing that moment. And I completely forgot about the ICO. So it came later than 3-4 months later. I remember, ICO, the ICO of Ethereum, what happened there? And so I tried to do that. It was already $5. I was so upset and say, I won't buy them. Come on. And so I missed the ICO. And think that in that period of my life, I didn't have money, and I had, I think, in the bank account like $12,000, and wow. I was so believer in Ethereum that I was saying I will take $10,000 and I will buy. Now, let's do the math. $10,000 then, when Bitcoin was $600, and with one Bitcoin you could buy 3,000 Ethereum. But so my life is constellated or episode like this where I forget something. But that was when I really started looking inside blockchain. And later I continued to be interested. But, I was working in 2016, 17, I was working in Yahoo in the growth team. And I quite complicated responsibility there. And but at some moment I was so into blockchain that I decided, okay, I need to resign. It's not possible. I cannot do both. So I decided to resign from Yahoo, and I took like a year and a half just studying and creating crazy projects and experimenting with things. For example, I created a project that was called 0x Nil, and it was basically identical to an ICO, but the idea was the nil did not have any value. It's nil, okay, it's no value. So you don't pay for it. You send 0 Ether and you receive an exchange 3,000 nil. And it was interesting to see if someone would participate to that. And initially I thought probably nobody will participate. Why someone should take a token that has zero value and spending zero value, but actually at the ICO, let's say this way, I call it IFO, initial free offering. And there were 500 participants. So there is actually now a nil token existing somewhere with 500 holders at least, that maybe in the future I will do something with it. It's you never know. That was a very interesting thing. So later I joined Tron. In Tron I was the head of dev tools. So consider when I joined Tron, it was in September of 2018, and there was no platform for the blockchain. So the idea was to build a smart contracts platform for October. And they were saying, oh, but we need all the tools. Say, what do you mean need all the tools? We need everything, Truffle, Infura, Web3, whatever. I say, how you expect to make this in 2 months? You will do it. Okay. So I started doing that. And actually we came out in October, I think 5th of October. Then the entire platform was ready. And I forked the Truffle, made a lot of change because Tron looks similar to Ethereum, but it actually has many deep differences in the way how it works. There is no gas in Tron, there is bandwidth, there is energy. So that changed a lot the system, but everything went well. So this is, let's say that after a while I was tired of Tron because not because of I think that I still think the technology is great. It's one of the best out there for you can make you can play a game on Tron easily. It's every 3 seconds you have a confirmation. You can do an actual game. It's fantastic. You cannot do that on Ethereum or on other blockchains. And but Justin Sun is a quite particular character, so it's hard to work with him. So
Wow. So I just want to hop in here for a second and say shout out to Joe E and Justin S. They're on YouTube. They're showing some love in the comments here. So just want to shout out to our live viewers. And another one from Joey. Thank you guys for tuning in. So I just kind of want to keep diving in here. So it seems like you've been in this space for a long time, which is amazing, and you've really helped to build some of the critical products of the internet and of Web3 super early on. How has that experience, like how did you take that experience and then move into the different projects that you're in now, knowing that being so early on, like the world is your oyster? How did you make the decision to go into the projects that you are now participating in?
That's it's complicated. I think that we are in a very, very early stage. It's despite all the buzz there is around, despite the perception, all the people that talks about Bitcoin, Ethereum, whatever, we are in a very early stage. If I compare this with the beginning of the web tool, the web, basically, the beginning of the web, I think that we are not still there. We are, in my opinion, we are in the end of the 80s. This can seem exaggerated in that direction, but if you think which has been the key in the evolution of the web, it's the HTTP protocol. When it came out, there was a good protocol for the mail, and there was a good protocol for the basic component you need in that moment to grow. So with that basis, you can definitely grow, and you can start reaching a large audience, whatever. We haven't reached that moment. There isn't a standard that is applicable to any blockchain where you say, oh, if I use this format, I can get a transaction from any blockchain. I don't see anything like this. I think that as long as there isn't something like this, we are pre-web. So we are pre-1992, 1993. And so any project where you enter it's really, you are a pioneer. You are really starting something new. And consider in this specific case of SimCity, but I'm not working only on SimCity. I'm working in this moment on 3 projects. In the case of SimCity, there is my forever interest in metaverse, in VR, and things like this. So when Roy, that he came out with the idea, told me about that. Roy, he was the head of business development in Tron, and so we worked on many projects together. And so we continue to stay in touch when I left Tron. And when he told me about that, of course I was interested. It's something that is very powerful. Okay, of course there are many aspects, okay, that are interesting in a metaverse, crypto metaverse. But to me, the most interesting part is the fact that you can create some kind of universal basic income. It seems easy to say, how you create a game and you talk about universal basic income. That is something that is really needed. In the future, we will need something like that because there are more and more machines, and there are more. There is more inequality between people. Look now, for example, in the US. In the US, there is a crisis for poor people. There are so many. If you come in San Francisco, you take a look around. It's really impressive. On the other hand, if you look on the investor side, there are so much money. So there is this crazy gap between all this money that is going around and all the people that are poor on the other side. These things will go more and more. It will be more intense, more evident, I think. And how a game can solve this. I think that a game can solve this. It seems crazy, but it's what will happen because DeFi, exchanges, whatever, all the previous trend in the crypto world, they were for a niche. It was not for the large mass of people. It was for the few people that were inside this world, that they can use a blockchain, so they can trade, they can make financial operation on DeFi, whatever. But the normal people, okay, my brother that is a guitar player, he doesn't know what this blockchain. He will never do that, but he is also a gamer. So he likes to play games. So that it's where there is in my opinion, there is a game change there. It's you come from a potential audit that is 50 million people all around the world to 5 billion people. It's really like that kind of change I'm seeing happening now. And in this kind of change, the fact that you have a game like SimCity where you enter in the game without having any money, you don't need to do anything. It's not like X Infinity, you need to own a token before, or other games where you need to buy the game. In the case of SimCity, it's free to play, and you enter in the game. Let's say you are an homeless person. Okay, I see so many homeless person here in San Francisco that since phone is very cheap, having an Android phone, one of cheap one, everyone has it. It's except the people that have mental health problems, whatever. But the average homeless is someone that it was put in a situation that cannot live anymore in house because the renting was too high, whatever. Those people have a smartphone. Imagine if they can play the smartphone and they can earn $100 in a day. If they are smart enough, in 3 months, they can go completely out of homelessness. They can rent an apartment. And I think that this is it's the most interesting thing is that this can be applied on a very large scale. Right now, there are, in the Philippines, for example, there are factories of people that play Axie Infinity. So people go there and play Axie Infinity because they make some money with that. In the future, I can imagine there will be entire cities. They will play SimCity or Everdragons or whatever, any other game that is on the blockchain, and they will earn money with that. And if an entire city start doing that, that changes completely the balance, and the balance becomes in favor of the workers because the typical response is that, okay, but if everyone plays a game, okay, what happens to who will fix the computer if it's broken? Who will come to fix the sink if it doesn't work? Who will build the apartment? But that it's a false question. It's exactly the opposite. What happens is that if you go in a poor country that has very few jobs, even Italy, there is a large occupation issue. If you go there, what happens? What you see is that there are 5 job offers, and there are 500 people who want to participate for that offer. That is what creates the huge problem, the absence of enough job so that people can live with that. So, but let's imagine that in those 500 people, 450 makes money playing a game. What happens is that the offer is no more so unbalanced and in favor of the employer. It starts to become balanced. At some moment, the people that are requesting say, you know what, it's better to play SimCity than work on the house. Okay, so whoever is employing these people is forced to raise the salaries. There is no way. You need to raise the salary. So the blockchain that people say, oh, this blockchain is something completely alien from the reality, something that lives only in the mindset of those crazy people that believes that they can change the world. Will change the world. That is what I believe. And we'll change the world because we will create new balances that force equality between the people. So this definitely is the aspect that in the entire things I like more. In fact, I'm working not only on SimCity, on a crypto metaverse, but also another game that is called Ever Dragons, and it's a much simpler game. It's still in an early stadium, but the goal is the same: is to reach that point where someone can play and earn money and maybe living his life with his family without stress. And doing this, you remove people from the job market. And removing people from the job market, what happens is that the employer must raise the offer.
That is fantastic. That is fantastic. I never actually realized that before, because this is a common thing that I've heard as well. Maybe not so common, but an issue that people have raised as well is like, well, if everybody goes into the games, then who's going to do everything else? And I think kind of the sentiment that you're sharing with us here is actually that's a really good thing, because it forces the employers of the people to up the stakes and pay people what they're worth and bring in more equality to the whole ecosystem. And I actually think it goes even a step further, because now people who previously were not earning as much can earn more, and so you have more liquidity in the economies that these people are actually living in and purchasing in. Because yeah, there's like worldwide liquidity and within the blockchain, but then there's also within a local economy. Like the grocery stores are going to benefit because people are able to buy more food and better food. The dentists, the plumbers, all those people, they're going to have more customers because people have more money, so they can get the things that they need to get. I actually think that's a brilliant take on it. So when you're thinking about building in the play to earn model, I think we're still in the super early days of this. Kind of like you were saying. What do you think is the secret sauce to the free to play to earn mechanics? Like, what actually is going to drive what's going to drive the model in a way that it's sustainable, that people are able to make money over a consistent period of time and make careers over this? Like, how are you seeing that, and how are you building that into the projects that you're building?
So, of course, I cannot spoil anything from the game. Roy will kill me, and literally, because it's a mafia game, so he can literally kill me. So it's I think that is it's when you build an economy. Okay, you start. It's not different when you build a country. If you see a country that is starting and it starts growing this economy, whatever, it's not something very different from what happens when you build an economy in a game. What is really important is that inside the game, you need to put in place all the necessary mechanisms that allow easily to do all the things that you could do normally in the real life. So, for example, you have in normal life, what you do, you do many things. You work, you build something, but you also invest. There are many people that don't do it. They don't directly produce. They have a job, of course, but they don't produce directly something because they invest money and allow other people to produce. And there are all those possible combination in these things. And so in general, you can imagine it, a game where the goal is to build a city, for example. There are people that buy lands, people that on that land say, oh, can you rent me the land and I can build a building on top of this. And maybe after I can rent the building to other people, and other people will need that in the game to do something. And I can... no, don't let me say something about the Sin City. But anyway, you can do a lot of stuff. And these things will create an economy. It's a proof of work. You are working in the game and you are producing. The game is growing. It's created. When you play, you are maybe you are I don't know, you are buying some asset. Someone has produced the asset. So that is economy. Okay, you are taking these assets and maybe after you say, you know, this gun, instead of just keeping for me, I will sell to someone else on the market. And the very interesting things with blockchain changes everything is that instead of having a separate economy, that is what happens in traditional games that have inside assets. In that case, you have an economy that is closed inside the game. Okay, you cannot go out from the game. But when you talk about cryptocurrency, it's completely different. You have some token, some NFT inside this game that you can definitely move outside the game. And you can sell any weapon on OpenSea or on some other marketplace. You can, if there is a ERC20 token that is managed inside the game, you can definitely take this out and put on exchange. And this is why someone can survive, can live actually a good life just playing a game. Because if it's just inside the game, you cannot do anything. But if you, every week, you reach some kind of level, you put some money you keep in the game, some money you put outside and move to an exchange, and from the exchange you move in your bank. And ideally, in an ideal world that I'm sure sooner or later will come, if the politician, of course, they decide to allow that, because it's a purely political situation, is that take the case of the El Salvador. You, of course, know about El Salvador, that the president made legal the Bitcoin there. Okay. It's really fantastic. I was so excited when I knew about that. It's because it shows for the first time in a so clear manner that all the narrative about Bitcoin being out of the world, unusable in the real world, is not a currency. It's bullshit. Pardon me for the word on the video, but it's really...
Let it rip. Let it rip.
Yeah, it's really bad because if I have a country that allows me to pay with Bitcoin, of course, not directly in Bitcoin. I pay on a Lightning network. They make the transaction super cheap and super... I can send $1,000 that you cannot send with anything else, not with credit card, not with... It's impossible, but I can do that in a Lightning network. And I can do very fast with the cost for transaction. It is almost zero. And that is, it's much better when people say, oh, but nobody understands how does it work. Do you know how works the WebRTC protocol for the messaging? Everyone uses Messenger, WhatsApp, wherever. If I ask any of them, nobody knows which is the protocol they are using. Why they need to know? They don't need to know. They have an app. On the app, there are buttons and things. You type a number, you press a button, and that is it. It's exactly the same thing. If this works in El Salvador, I would say, with all due respect, I don't expect that they are the most technologically advanced country in the world. This can happen everywhere. Okay, so if it does not happen here or does not happen in Europe or in China, it's because whoever control the finance, the financial world, makes everything possible to avoid that. But if people say it is not usable, it's not a currency, it's totally bullshit. Also because when you have, because also when we think to this, we think with our mindset and say, oh yeah, but of course I can do that with a Lightning Network on Bitcoin. Okay, but sooner or later I need to move that in dollar. It's very complicated to move on the exchange to the bank. Why? That's a question. Why you need that? You don't need that, because everything around you is in Bitcoin. You go to buy fruit to the store and it's in Bitcoin. You pay in Bitcoin. They give you fruit. You go to buy a car, you buy the car in Bitcoin. If the entire price basket is based on that currency, you don't care about anything else. Everything moves in that world. If the Bitcoin goes up and down, you don't care. If the price remains the same it was before 1 Satoshi, now it's 1 Satoshi again, who cares that Satoshi compared with dollars or with the euro or wherever is changed? We don't care. We pay in 1 Satoshi. And I think that is also related with the success of NFT recently. Because people that bought NFT during the crash, the last crash in April, whatever, it's because they, instead of thinking, if you buy coins in exchange, whatever you market, you are always focused on the exchange with the dollar or with the euro or whatever. It's part of your mindset because you are doing speculation. You are trying to get the better gain from that. But if you buy an NFT, the only thing that counts for you is that, and I need to give credit for this to my friend Emanuele, that he told me long time ago, and initially I didn't give him credit for, is that you don't think anymore in terms of dollars. If this costs 0.1 Ether, in the future, if it costs 0.2 Ether, for me it's good. I don't care how much if the Ether in the meantime goes up, goes down, who cares? It's and that is exactly the same relation with a country like Honduras, where Salvador, where the moment you decide to make your economy, your country economy on a currency like Bitcoin, you don't have any more this problem. You don't care about the volatility. And by the way, when people talk about volatility, they think about the dollar. Okay, none of those people that talked about volatility compare with the pesos somewhere or look the Argentina. They don't have Bitcoin or cryptos, but they had a couple of crises that were terrible, and where the inflation was so high that the currency was devaluated of 100x. It's much worse than Bitcoin. Bitcoin, if you look at the last years, has moved in a range that is between 20,000 and 60,000. It's not that big volatility. But for example, if you live in Venezuela and the market, the Bolivar goes down continuously, it's much better to have even the craziest altcoin out there is better than using a Bolivar. So I think that everything must be put in context. When you contextualize something, you really understand what does it mean. And the trick that people often uses to say negative things about Bitcoin, but I say Bitcoin, I refer to the crypto world, is because they try to reduce the contest to a small contest. It's a typical trick that is done when you to try to have the reason. You say, oh, I'm right, it's clear. You remove the contest, you put in a small contest and say, oh, you see, it's To make an example, it is apparently unrelated. If you look at all the report for if eggs are good for the heart or not, if someone has a heart problem, eggs are good or bad, cholesterol good or bad. If you look at that, you will see, this is just an example, but you can see that there are reports every year that says, oh, it's definitely good. And after there is another report that says, oh, it's definitely bad. There's another report that says, oh, it's definitely good, it's bad. So how you explain that? They are scientific research because they decide which element they are going to count. So if I decide to consider this parameter as relevant for me and this other parameter is irrelevant, I will get one result. If I do the opposite, I will get the other result. So it's like the typical problem with numbers. When you analyze numbers, it's all about which numbers you analyze. It's possible you do a huge work and you analyze the wrong number, and you in the end have results that are completely misleading and don't tell the truth about what you want to know.
Yeah, I totally agree. Like the results that you get are based on the frame in which you set up the experiment to begin with. So if you're only comparing, if you're only saying, okay, are eggs good based on how good they are for the heart versus how good they are versus not good for the heart, I mean, there's other factors to an egg. I mean, there's protein, there's sodium, there's blah 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 that could be useful in other areas. It's just how you frame it. That totally makes sense to me. So I kind of want to take a step back though, and I want to talk about the idea of entire countries that are going to be adopting crypto, right? Because that is a huge idea here. In your opinion, do you see the countries who adopt crypto and the blockchain first, are they going to be the ones that see the most benefit of it? Like, for example, if the United States suddenly said, okay, we're all in on crypto, we totally get it, we're going to, super crypto friendly, we're going to be the crypto country of the world, so on and so forth, are they going to see bigger benefits? And then when that adoption does happen, what does that actually look like? Besides things just instead of being priced to dollars, or they're priced to Bitcoin or ETH, like what are the further implications of that?
So I think that everyone would have an advantage. And the advantages are very clear. The advantage is that you don't need to have a bank account. It does not give you any rewards, anything. It's just a cost. You don't need that. You just need a wallet, and that's all. You have a cost of a transaction that is much cheaper, because don't think about transferring Ethereum. You are transferring, if you are on Lightning Network or Polygon or whatever, you can transfer things with a very, very, very low cost. And so there is another clear advantage. That is an advantage that is good for everyone. Okay, so, and there is the fact that you cannot be blocked. You have a bank account. The bank can decide in any moment to block you. If they decide with any reason, you will have a hard time to try to get back your money. And maybe you need them today because you need to do something. They cannot do that with blockchain. So it's clear for the people why it's so much better. From the state, where the things became very important, is that that probably requires, I need to make it clear what I have in mind. I need to do a little bit of global economics things. But let's, the basic point is that countries, they are not really free of managing their economy. Okay, they are forced to respect international treaties that say, oh, you need to do this, you need to do that, you need to do that. So I cannot really do the action that I would like to do. So if I use a currency that is shared with the entire world, I don't have that problem. Okay, nobody can say, let's take, for example, the problem that Argentina had with the Argentina problem was that they get a problem with the Federal Reserve, with the money that they get in dollars. And when the agreement went bad, Argentina didn't have any power to do anything to try to protect themselves. So the economy crashed completely. And if you look Greece, for example, when the crisis in Greece, in Greek, in it was in 2000, now I don't remember, but when everything was crashing, what happened there is that the bank did not have money to give to the people, because they need to buy the money from the Central European Bank, and the Central European Bank decided not to give them the money. Say, oh, I'm sorry, we cannot give you money now because we don't like what you are doing. Okay. That kind of power makes very hard for a country to resist if you have the world against you. Let's do another example. Take Cuba or Venezuela. What are they doing wrong, actually? If you look bad, you can criticize the political position or whatever, but when someone says, oh, they are doing very bad for their people, their economy is so bad because the system is bullshit again. Because if I make an embargo like that against France in 2 years will be completely devastated, more than Venezuela. Because if they cannot take this case of Venezuela is very peculiar. I think it's very clear because they have oil. They are one of the largest producer of oil in the world. But at some moment they decide not to sell oil in dollars. And that was a sin that you are not allowed to do. If you do that, the US will put you in a condition where you cannot do anything else. And if your primary source of economy is basically based on oil, and that oil is blocked, you cannot sell to anyone, what you do? It's your fault that the economy is going bad. No, I think it's because someone is blocking. Let's say that you are in San Francisco, you have a store, okay? You have this store with a lot of stuff inside, and there is a new law that say, you know what? People cannot enter in your store. I'm sorry, I decide that I don't like you. People cannot enter in your store. What do? You will try to survive in other way, but you will fail. There is another possibility. And so this kind of power that is imposed by the big country, in particular by the US, are those kinds. Hey, sorry, someone is calling me on.
All good.
No. It's just ignore it. Okay. How can I block this? Sorry, one moment.
All good. This is the fun of doing things live, is that we're live, so things just happen. Just keep going.
So I was saying that it's the big advantage for any country is that country has the possibility of being much stronger, because if Bitcoin crashes for the entire world. Does not crash only in my country. So if El Salvador has a problem in the future, he has, because Bitcoin is crashing everywhere. That won't happen. To me, it won't going to happen. And this is so important for a small country. It changes completely. And of course, the big countries, in particular the US, do anything is possible to avoid that. And there are very good reasons. Okay, if you look at the financial evolution of the US, of the dollar, okay, the dollar is hegemonic all around the world. It's the country, the currency it is used for all kind of exchange of commodities, oil, gas, rare metals, whatever. All those things are all exchanged in dollars. Not all, but mostly they are exchanging in dollars. And this happens, how this happens? Because in the 70s, in 70 or 71, the dollar is difficult to impose. The US have difficult to impose the dollar as the international currency. So they had this genius idea. Say, oh, let's do an agreement with those people that sell oil and say, hey, from today going on, you sell oil only in dollars, and I protect you. So this is the idea. you can stay safe, because if anyone try to create problem to you, I will create a war for that. Don't worry. So the agreement was between the US and Saudi Arabia, and by consequence, all the OPEC, the oil organization,
Right.
and that worked fantastically from this point of view. In fact, the dollar became immediately hegemonic, and but with a very high cost for Americans, that Americans don't consider this. Let's say that I don't like that much Donald Trump, but one thing that he was right is that there is a trade deficit in the exchange between China and the US. Now, what he never said is why there is this trade deficit. Okay, the trade deficit is not because China is a bad guy that is trying to work around. Of course, they are also doing this. They are trying to work around. In fact, the idea behind the digital renminbi, in the end, what it is a way to make impossible for the US to track what's really going on, and selling and buying goods using something else than dollar. But in the end, the real problem is purely mathematical. Okay, I am the US. You are, for example, China. And what happens is that I want that you use dollar to buy whatever you need. That is the agreement. Now, you have, of course, all your expenses, your normal expenses. I have my normal expenses, which is the only way that at the end of the count, you have enough dollar to buy whatever you need to buy. It seems something, but that is the clue. The central point is that to have enough dollar, you need to export more than what I export. So I reduce my export as the US, and you increase your export. So I'm buying more for you, and I'm giving you dollars. These extra dollars that you have, you can use those extra dollars to buy oil or whatever, which is the consequence of this, that to keep, and this is explaining the trade deficit. But the very bad consequence on the Americans is that if I reduce my export while my production continues to increase, because if you look at all the charts of the American economy, you see that the growth of the production in the US continue to grow in a very stable, linear way. But if you look at the salary of the Americans, you discover that they go up, and in the 70s, there is a bifurcation. The production goes up, and the salary goes almost flat. The salary of an average American now is a little bit more than it was in the 71 in dollars. And this is a direct consequence of this agreement, because when you force me to reduce the export, I need to reduce the production. So my production becomes more financial. I'm selling goods that are other kind of values that is not the production. So my car, I sell less car than I was selling before. Why? Because I'm forced to reduce the production. So what Americans don't understand, because they probably nobody ever told them about this, is that the reason why there are so many problems for normal people, whatever if they are Democrats or Republicans, whatever, everyone has problems. This is why there are all the things that are happening. It's due to that agreement. And the consequence of that is that the US, to keep that agreement in place, are able to make a war wherever is necessary. If you look at Gaddafi, you remember Gaddafi when France bombed Libya and they put down Gaddafi? How you explain that? It's very simple, because Gaddafi was creating the African currency, like the euro, the same kind of things in Africa. And his plan was to sell all the oil that was coming from Africa using the African currency. That means not using the dollar. That's unacceptable for the US. So they found immediately a way to build a trap and bombing Libya and removing Gaddafi. That is what happened. It's so clear. I had so many, because I am Italian, I had so many friends that were working in Libya. They were saying, Libya, compared with the rest of the Arab world, is fantastic. There is no problem. Women don't have issues. It's so much free. Go now to Libya. Go to see what happens. So when you hear this narrative that we are trying to protect the people, to help, freedom, whatever, Saddam Hussein, it's the same things. Iraq has always been one of the most liberal country in that part of the world. But he decided at some moment that, you know what, instead of selling in dollar, maybe I can sell in euro to Europe or in renminbi to China. It's more convenient. That is unacceptable. It's so basically the US has implemented a proof of war. I like to define it this way. It's a proof of war. The consensus algorithm is that you sell using dollars. If not, I will make a war to make it happen. And right now has worked very well. I'm convinced that it's going to fail this process. The cryptocurrency world will probably have an impact of that, but it's not the central things that's going to change. I think mostly is that the numbers are not more in favor of the US. When the US joined the petrodollar agreement in the 70s, I think that the GDP of the US was the 42% of the world GDP. 42%. So if you say, hey, use my currency because I guarantee that it's stable enough, so strong that you don't have any problem, you can believe me. Oh, it's 42%. Now the American GDP is probably, I think, 20, 21%. And this is too little. It's not able to manage that. That is why China is trying to find other way to do it. Russia is selling gas to the euro, to Europe, often in euro. That is bad. Why now there is all those attacks against Putin? Because Putin is a bad person. Maybe he's a bad guy. I don't know that. But for sure the reason is not because he's a bad guy. Because if not, you would not support people that are clearly bad in other parts where it's an advantage for you. So in my opinion, the cryptocurrencies are going to change completely the world because it will cause an acceleration in this process. And if I should bet on what will substitute dollar as a reference currency for the world, I expect there will be some kind of cryptocurrency that manage a basket of local cryptocurrency. So there is the digital renminbi, the digital Russian stuff, I don't remember now the name of the rublo. The digital rublo, the digital dollar, they work as a basket of all of these, and they will put together in some kind of cryptocurrency that count this basket. And in this basket, you can bet they need to put also Ethereum, Bitcoin, I don't know, Avalanche, Polygon, wherever. They need to do this. It will be necessary at some moment. So I expect that we are going to break this system that has worked. And breaking this has a very important implication because we will reduce the number of wars that there are around the world. We are going to build peace. It seems gradually say, oh, you are out of your mind. You think that is... I'm totally convinced about it. I believe that we are going to create finally peace because we are going to break that kind of system based on fact that you do the way I will say, if not, I will force you. If the currency that governs the world is on a world scale, there is no more any reason to do this. So it will change everything.
So I think one crucial thing too is in this basket that is it's reflecting like a more of like the world's agreed upon currency that has to involve Sin City's currency as well. Of course, that has to be part of it.
Maybe that will happen. I don't know. That means that you are talking about a future market cap of many trillions. That would make
possible.
me very happy. Yeah,
it's
but
very possible.
I don't know, but I think that games in this kind of evolution are crucial because I'm convinced that all the DeFi world, whatever, is fantastic. I'm also working on Ape Market. It is a DeFi system to help projects to raise funds in the very early stage. because now we have a lot of things for later stage, but not for the very, very early stage. Now the pre-sales are done typically with a SAFT, a simple agreement for future token, things like this. And ape market is going to solve the problem. And but the point with DeFi is that it's still something that involves not that many people. Okay, so it's a small world. Okay, so you can block that if you decide to put out of law, if you decide to say illegal to do some kind of a change, you can still do that. You can definitely get a result. So if the government decided, oh, we don't like this, we are going to change it, that is stoppable. I convinced of that. But you cannot stop gaming. It's impossible. There are too many people there. It's so big, the number of people that are playing games, that I would not be surprised if in 2 years, the total market cap of coin will be 10 trillions instead of what is now, even more. And in this big market cap of 10 trillions, 15 trillions, the 70% will be games.
That's right.
Because the audience that you have, the target you are reaching is huge. And that is why I'm right now working on 2 games. It's, as I said before, there is SimCity, it is this mafia game, it's very fun. On the other side, there is another game, it's called Ever Dragons 2. And it's another, even that is a play to earn game, and with a complex internal economy. I would say it is not as complex as SimCity. I cannot say why, but SimCity is very complex. It's very complicated. There are so many levels. But maybe it's even more complicated for people to play. While instead, on the other side, you have a game that is easier to play and can attract a different kind of target, because when you like to play something, it's because you like the game, and maybe you don't like the other one. So on my way, I'm working on 2 projects because I think that they attract completely different targets, and both are important. And this is why, and to me, I'm totally convinced that the crypto metaverse is really the game changer.
So just to kind of make sure we're all still on the same page here, basically what I'm kind of understanding of the sentiment is that currently the global financial system is broken, and it's more based on power and countries enforcing the use of their currency through military might and places of influence or functions of influence. And so as we're moving into crypto, we're essentially outsourcing the management of currency from countries and putting it just on a global scale. And we're letting the greater global community create our own currency and manage our own currency. And we're really taking that into our own hands in a really, really cool way. And because of that, we're able to make it more fair, and we're able to actually bring more peace because we're not incentivized to go out and try to make war with other companies or countries to enforce the use, because we're all in this together and things are going to be very fluid in the world of crypto. And the adoption of crypto being fueled by games means that over time, we're going to have so much capital concentrated in the metaverse powered by gaming that gamers together will be this first group of people, and people, everybody else who's getting into it that are following the gamers and all this capital, that we're going to pool together so much capital and so many resources that we're actually going to be able to bring this into reality. So essentially, because of crypto gaming, we're literally creating there's a future of worldwide peace from gaming, from crypto gaming, and from the metaverse. Am I understanding that right? Please correct me if
Well,
I'm
you are
wrong, but that
understanding
seems beautiful.
perfectly. Yeah, you synthesize, you summarize perfectly what I said. I need to write your words and use in the future. It's much more short, but it says exactly what is the point. It's to me that is the central point: is that we are going to change the world, and it's despite all the people that think that it's a Ponzi scheme, things it's proved that is not that, but it's hard to convince people. We are really going to change it, because in my opinion, what happens is that don't expect that the US or China, you see China has banned mining, they are building their own digital renminbi to control everything. The US did a proposal. I don't know if you know that there has been a proposal in the Senate to introduce a bill to create a digital dollar. If you look the design of this digital dollar, there is a sensor power. So you can decide to block a transaction because the proof of authority decide that, oh, this transaction, I don't like it. So where is the point of using cryptocurrency if you are going to block transaction? So it's obvious that the big power will try to block this process. Okay. Now, as long as you do something like El Salvador, okay, there will be more and more little countries that will try the same experiment. They will go on that path, but that is not going to create that critical mass that you need to really change things. But when you start having games where you can just play a game with a smartphone and making money with that and survive and enjoying your job, it's not a boring job, it's a fun job. You are also playing a game, so it's fun. When this happens and you have so many people involved with that, the number of small countries that now are poor, that start raising their economy, will be more and more. And there is another aspect that is often is not considered, that if I live here in the US, okay, myself, take my example. I have a good job. I have a job that is interesting by myself. I will probably for sure I will play Sin City, but I won't be a gamer that wants to stay all the day there, okay? Because I have a job, I have another activity. So now what happens is there are rich countries and poor countries. The rich countries, most of people have a good job, a good activity, so they are less motivated to play the game. They also have less time. Poor country instead, on the other side, they don't have a job often. Or if they have a job, they have a bad job. So they are very motivated in playing a game that can increase their situation. So this will create a balance between poor country and rich countries. And the same think about employers and employee, that there is in the relationship between in a small town, I need to build these apartments and I need 10 people, and there are 200 people who want the job. I have power. It's the same with the countries. It's the same. Take the vaccine, for example. What they can do for the vaccine, because it's centralized. The approach to the distribution of the vaccine is centralized. If it was decentralized, let's say that there was no central authority that decide which vaccine is good and which one is bad, probably the Cuban vaccine would be in all the poor countries in the world, because it works perfectly. They have been the first one to create a vaccine that can vaccinate people 2 years old. Going up, they removed completely COVID, and with a very effective vaccine. I have a friend, an Italian friend, that worked on the research for the vaccine. And but if you go in Italy and you are vaccinated in Cuba, and he told me this, you are not recognized. You say, "Oh, we don't know this vaccine. If you want to enter in Italy, you need to vaccinate again." That is why it's this way. It's because it's centralized. There is someone that decides which are the good vaccine, which are the bad one. Okay, but if it was decentralized, everyone could decide. I'm Uganda. I cannot buy the Moderna vaccine or the Pfizer one, but I can buy the Cuban one. It is super cheap. Let me buy it. No, you cannot buy it because there is embargo. Cuba cannot export it. The embargo, that is the excuse for the embargo in the world, is, that is a bad dictatorship. So we need to put them down. So this is why you do the embargo. The embargo is only creating problem to the people. And actually, it's proven historically that if there is a dictator somewhere and you make an embargo, you make the dictator much, much more power. It's very unlikely that you will go to change anything. So the real reason are only economic, financial. There is no other reason. And I think that this is another aspect that will change. And gaming, in my opinion, is the breaker, is the one that involves so many people that if there are 20 countries in Africa, Asia, and other parts that are normally considered poor countries that start creating this economy, they will become so huge that at some moment they can say, you know, you don't want to allow us to get this, we don't care. That's the point. Who cares about importing that? We create our own economy. We don't need that. But to do that, you need a huge amount of people that are doing that. And this is why I think that crypto metaverse is really going to change the world.
I love that. I love that. And I think we're all really, really excited for this future. And, you know, I want to thank you very, very much for all the time you've shared. I want to be very respectful of that. So I just have a couple more questions for you, then we'll start to wrap up. But in regards to this future, I mean, to me, it's as clear as day. It's a bright, shining future. It is clear, and it's coming. However, the road to get there, I don't know how to time that. So if you were to kind of give us like just some milestones or some estimates of time of like when can we expect things to happen? Like when is crypto gaming going to hit mainstream adoption? What does that look like? And then when are we going to start to see some of these really, really big milestones? Because as gamers, as investors, as people who love the metaverse and want to be a part of it, it's hard to time this stuff. I mean, it's very, very difficult. So, just in your opinion, like maybe you could give us a roadmap of kind of what we can expect and how we can be thinking about this moving forward.
So first, it's very hard to predict what's going on with crypto because it's evolving so quickly, so fast, so new things every time. It has been produced so much technology in the last 4 years that has not been produced in the previous 25. It's very hard to predict something, but my expectation is if I look at where we are with SimCity, where our games are like Illuvium or other games that are in the same space, what I see is that it's not that easy to build a system that is strong enough to maintain this kind of traffic, being decentralized. Of course, inside SimCity, there will be a really strong decentralized autonomous organization, but it's not just one. There will be a multi-DAO. Every syndicate will have its own DAO that together they go and create. They can have different rules, like any other country in the world. They can decide that, oh, we want to use a quadratic system, we want to use another system, we want to be linear, and they vote for that. And these things it's complex, and the economy inside the game is complex. The blockchain you choose to do the game is complex. You need to be fast enough to do a game, and unfortunately, many blockchain would be good for, in general, let's say, are not good enough for a game because they are not fast enough. So the finality is super important for this. And actually, I don't know where we will go. We will end up. We are still studying to try to see which is the best platform to start, but also with the idea of being multi-chain. Why you need to be on one chain? Well, there are people that say they hate Binance. Okay, so if you build on BSC, probably a lot of people say, "Oh, I don't care about that." But if you build on BSC and you build also on Polygon and you build also on Avalanche, there will be, because there is still the world of cryptos is weird. It's a little bit like factions. Oh, no, only Avalanche is the only one. Oh, only Bitcoin. Oh, Ethereum and all the rest of the world is nothing. It's completely wrong. You would never say something like this for anything else, but still there is that kind of sentiment. And so I believe that is why we are going that direction. But if I look at the timing from how I see it, I would expect that we need at least a year before then all those games will be solid enough, they will really start being adopted on large scale. That a year is nothing. It passes very, very. When the DeFi exploded, it was a little bit more than a year ago. It's now seems like prehistory. Say, oh, DeFi. Oh, you remember when Uniswap came out? It was 12 years ago. Yeah, oh, it was last year. Oh, sorry. When they changed the protocol. Oh, yeah, you're right. it's this way. It's you look, everything looks so antique, even if it's 1 year old. I think a year will pass very quickly. I expect that in a year from now, you will have very strong play to earn games out there. I hope that SimCity will be one of the most powerful, most successful. But of course, if it's not, I'm happy anyway, because I believe in the entire system, not only in SimCity. And I'm convinced that in a year there will be when the game will start being very, very strong. So I would expect that if politicians, wherever, they figure out this before, they will try to block it somehow. It's normal. They will try, they will fail, and we know the world continues. This progress is unstoppable. It's something that is so clear. You cannot stop that. You can try in any possible way. As long as you are in a small country, you control everything, you can do it. If you are in North Korea and you control the system, you decide, hey, here there is no Ethereum. I like Bitcoin, I don't like Ethereum. Ethereum is out, okay. But if you are in a world like this, where there are so much people need to grow and becomes better and whatever, there is so much push for changes that I don't think it is blockable. So I expect that there will be a big, large adoptions of crypto in games in a year, and they don't need to know about games, about crypto. That is what it's clear that one of the most effort is going on now on the blockchain is that trying to create custodial wallet are good enough that can protect you, but you don't need to save and be crazy with your private keys, with the idea that you lose them. So maybe you can just launch a wallet where you don't even look at the private key, but as a recovery system, it is good enough that if you lose your smartphone, you can recover your wallet. So there are a lot of people working on that. They will solve the problem. It's just a question of time. So when that will happen, and I think it will happen soon, you have that my mom can play a game like crypto, like SimCity. I don't know if she will enjoy, but let's say she's very... But let's say she plays it. She could play without knowing about crypto. Why you need to know? You know that there is a token. The name is, let's say, Sin, for example, and for SimCity, but you are using this token. But maybe you can use other token. Who knows? You create an economy. Why there should not be inside the game an entire DeFi system where you can use many currencies? There are so many possibilities. But in the end, you don't need to know how they work. You don't need to save your private keys because the system are going to evolve. And when this will happen, I expect that in 2 years, probably 2-3 years at most, the dollar system will crash.
Wow.
That is my expectation. And it's also based on other kind of metrics, because if you look the Wall Street compared with the other markets in Asia, whatever, you see that in general the US, the American market outperforms the others usually for 10 years. And after there are 10 years where the Asian market outperforms the American one. It's happened in the last 70 years. So it's going to happen now. We are in the recessive moment where the Asian market is going to perform much better than so this will for sure will create a weakness in the dollar that will work in favor of changing the entire system. So I expect that probably in 2-3 years we will have some very strong change to the way how the world works. But not more than that. People say, oh, 10 years, we need 20 years. No, I disagree. It's going to happen much faster.
Well, my sincere hope is that whenever this major change does happen, that the power goes to the people, the people who are building it. I'm obviously a huge favor of entrepreneurship and the metaverse. So my hope is that the people who are building our future, and I believe the metaverse is the future, whenever that transformation of wealth happens. We're seeing it happen daily, but this big one that you're talking about, I just hope that one, normal people don't get smashed in that. They don't get crushed in that. Unfortunately, I think some may. And I really hope people are prepared, and I hope they get ready. And I hope they realize that this is coming. So, anyways, I just want to say thank you so much for coming on the show today. It's really been an honor to be able to speak with you and share some time with you. It's truly an honor. Last question for you. But what question should I be asking you that I just wouldn't think to ask?
Okay, that's hard. I don't know. I can't do this. What I can say something about what you were saying in the end. I don't have a question in mind in this moment. But before you were saying that you were hoping that people don't get smashed in this process, because our experience with crypto right now has been mostly on the investment side, on the financial way of doing that. When you do that, you do a very very risky business. Okay, you are betting on something. But when you play a game, it's very different. The economy there is very different. You are earning something day by day, little by little. You don't risk actually to lose that because there is a crash or it's. I think that is another aspect that is going to be different with games, because of course there will be people that will buy assets, sell out, move inside, doing arbitrage between currency inside the game, outside the game. Those they will continue to have the same problem. But if my mom was played SimCity, she would never even think about that. She would just play the game, and when she has some money inside there, buy some asset and receive that asset. And I think that is going to change many things also on that aspect. But maybe there are some people that have left some question there. That's some good question. I didn't look at the stream.
Yeah, the chat's been going pretty nuts here. Just want to give thank yous to Spaghetti, Joe, Red, Justin. Oh, so many great people in here. But yeah, throw your questions in here. Maybe we can get to a couple of them before we wrap it on up here. There's a little bit of a delay, so we'll see those coming in. In the meantime, though, where can people? We have. I'll put this one on the screen here. Got the fam coming out to support.
Yeah.
Gotta love that.
I love
Metagang.
how all these all the people are getting together to create those syndicates, and some of them are very active, and I'm impressed by how well they are organized. The first ARG that we did for distributing a SIMPass was quite hard, I think. But they solved it in 40 minutes. And I remember when we were following that, everyone was concerned, what if they don't discover it? I say, no, trust me, those people are smart. I'm following them. They are very smart. They're very strong. They create a super team. It's not a normal team there. A team like that is a super team. They found the best person out there, and they will solve it much quicker than you expect. When they solved it in 40 minutes, I was not surprised. It's fantastic, this kind of activity.
So we have one question here about, they want to know about the utility of the Sin City Pass. I'm not sure if we can talk about that, but that is one of the questions that rolled in.
That is definitely something that is what I would say. If you think about, from, let's say I know nothing about Sin City. Okay, I'm just some of the other person that is looking this token. Okay, and I see the typical NFT drop out there. The typical NFT drop is 10,000 token. And usually there are many other drops that go to dilute, wherever. Now you have a token that is only 888. What do you think? It is a normal token? Is something that is, I don't know. I would think that maybe it's not exactly a token like any other else, but I can say something that is wrong. It's just my thinking about it. If I was thinking about it, I was thinking that, hey, those are only 888 for a metaverse game that will probably be played by a million people. Who knows? Maybe it has some power. I don't know. That's my diplomatic answer.
Good answer. Good answer. All right, I love it. Y'all, this is your last chance to ask questions here. We're going to be wrapping up very, very soon. So type away if you have questions. Now's the time. But yeah, so is the best place to find you on Twitter, or where else? Where else can people connect and learn more about you and get more involved in your ecosystem?
I'm quite active on Twitter, yes, and also if they come on Discord, they can easily find me. My messages are open, so I respond to everyone. And I don't use Facebook in general. I use Twitter mostly because it's the best way to stream things to the world. And but probably even Facebook, even Twitter is going to become bad, because Jack Dorsey he's a good guy. He made many things that many other people didn't, and of course many choices are forced by the investors, all the things. But he tried to keep it. I think to keep Twitter good. I'm very afraid that Twitter will become something very bad quickly. So probably maybe I need to add another project to my. Start working with someone to build a decentralized Twitter, and those things are. But in general, for now, I respond to anyone on Twitter and Discord, and if someone sends me an email, my website is easy. It's francesco.sullo.co. So even I'm very open to, because I think that in life you get continuously input, okay, and sometimes I had the best inputs. Someone is asking which is my Twitter. Is Sullof. It's my last name with the F, Sullof. I just saw the question. I say that often it happens that the best input comes in a completely unexpected way. And if you are open, you can take them. You can do something, okay? And the only way to be open is to be open. That means that I don't block nobody from sending me a message. If someone responds to a tweet and it's very offensive with me, sometimes it happens, I continue to try to talk with them. I say, okay, it's in general, I'm very open. That means also opening to risk, because someone can try to abuse you. It's so often we try to protect ourselves and limit our freedom in that way. It's a common thing going on, that people are adding so many things to protect themselves without realizing that is actually going to limit your freedom. And you are limiting your freedom by yourself. So there are those two aspects that I'm really a believer in freedom. And on the other side, I have seen in my life that the best thing that happened almost randomly, because I met someone in one day that told me something and say, oh, you know what, looks interesting. What is this? And so this is also one reason why I don't close door to anyone. It's the entire life that I do this, and I would say that I don't regret my approach.
I love it. I love it. Well, I just want to say, there are so many people that have influence in the blockchain space, in the metaverse space, and for especially for somebody who's in the head of blockchain for Sin City and all the other projects that you do, I'm very glad it's you. Thank you very, very much for everything that you do. I think we're going to feel your contributions to the space for years and years and years to come. So thank you for that. Thank you very much for your time. I really do appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Awesome. Well, to everybody who's watching and listening, I want to thank you all. Y'all are the best. Love all the comments. I'm going to go ahead and end the stream now, but I will see y'all on the next episode. Take care now.